Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is the founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, former U.S. Navy lieutenant commander. It's always great to get his insights and his perspectives. He joins us back again on our guest line here on the Mike Gallagher Show in Las Vegas. Dr. Jasser, great having you back on the show. How have you been, sir?
Great. It's good to be with you, Mike, as always. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to play a part of the audio from the sheriff, the Las Vegas sheriff, Joe Lombardo, yesterday, who brought something up that raised a lot of eyebrows, particularly in the context of ISIS claiming responsibility and that this guy was indeed radicalized. Let's listen together.
I want to understand the motivation that you describe, okay, to prevent any future incidents. And, you know, did this person get radicalized unbeknownst to us? And we want to identify that source.
Did this person get radicalized? Now, Dr. Jasser, Sheriff Lombardo has been very transparent. They've been holding frequent, ongoing, consistent press conferences. The local reporters here tell me they think this guy's an open book, and he's being very, very transparent in the information he's conveying to the general public. What do you make of his openly suggesting that we want to find out if this guy might have been radicalized unbeknownst to us?
Well, Mike, there's certainly so many more questions than answers, and we just need to. What's very bizarre is, while ISIS took credit, there have been a couple examples in which ISIS has taken credit for things they didn't do, but they usually don't do that. There's a lot of attacks that have happened that they don't take credit for, and ultimately, but what's happened is there was a couple in the past year because they've been squeezed, so they're trying to make themselves relevant. Now this guy's radicalization, which doesn't fit, is the fact that most of the radical Islamists that attach themselves to the ISIS ideology ultimately will have some expressions of that grandeur, if you will, and Islamization, and he's not had any of that. And also his wife, now, as we saw with the San Bernardino couple, they were both radicalized, and the spouse played a significant role with Omar Martin in Orlando. Also, the spouse seemed to have known. This lady appears to have been from Manila. Her last name was Natividad, which actually is a very Christian name. So there's really no traces yet that there's any Islamic footprint. And the fact that he had no social media footprint also is very atypical. But, you know, anything is possible at this point, as we really have very little information. And the Philippines, by the way, has been fighting a war against the Islamists in the South Philippines, where the Muslims are a majority. So it is very suspicious that he sent $100,000 over there, and where is that money going?
Well, I mean, presumably he sent it to the girlfriend who was over there, and she returned last night. And I want to dive into this connection between ISIS and the Philippines, because you're right, that's another, seems to be a lot of red flags here. Share with us how ISIS has infiltrated the Philippines, which is apparently where the killer's girlfriend was on or near the time of the killings here in Las Vegas.
One quick thing about his girlfriend is that she had a couple identities. On Newsweek reported she had a couple social security numbers, had a couple husbands. So we really don't know what her real identity is. But at the end of the day, the Philippines has for long, since the 60s and 70s, been fighting, had separatist groups of almost 15, 20 different jihadist groups. The leading one in the South Philippines is Abu Sayyaf. And there was recently, in early 2016, Abu Bakr Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, called Hapatan, the head of Abu Sayyaf. He called him basically the emir of Southeast Asia's branch of ISIS. So what's happening, and they all united. So for the first time in almost 30, 40 years, all of these disparate jihadist groups united in the southern island areas of Mindanao. And there's been a war in Marawi, which has now been under martial law since the summer. There have been hundreds of Philippine soldiers who've died in this war. Mosques have turned into basically embattlements with, instead of calls for prayers, there have been places from which the ISIS soldiers have been shooting from. They think now it's been dampened, but in Ramadan in the summer, there were significant reports, even in our media actually, paying attention to the fact that there was a war being fought in Marawi, which looked in many reports like Aleppo, Syria.
All right, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, we got to have to stand down here for some breaking news. Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, is about to make a statement. There has been a lot of reporting that says that he's had a big conflict with President Trump, and we're going to dive into that. Final question for you, though, and we always appreciate taking time for us here on the Mike Gallagher Show. What does your gut tell you about this theory that this guy might have been radicalized by ISIS, and with ISIS taking responsibility and claiming he was? Does your gut tell you that's true or false?
My gut so far tells me it's false, because there has been no precedent of an Islamist attack that did not want to go out exclaiming to the Islamic world that he's part of his soldiers with them, and there's been no sign of that. Now, if we're not getting all the information, then we'll find out differently. But so far, there's been no signs beforehand. And plus, his age doesn't fit. A 60-plus-year-old gentleman doing this just doesn't fit the typical profile of Islam.
Doesn't fit the profile. Yep. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, always great to get your insights, sir. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join us here on the Mike Gallagher